Chosen one, listen carefully. This message is not loud and it is not meant to chase attention. It is quiet, precise, and intentional, just like the way God has been working in your life. Not everyone will understand it. Not everyone is meant to. This message is for those who have felt different for as long as they can remember. Those who walk the narrow path even when no one is applauding. Those who carry depth in a world that prefers distraction. If you are hearing this and something stirs inside you that is not coincidence, that is alignment. This is not for those who mock faith, doubt everything, or chase noise for comfort. This is for the ones who have been marked, separated, and prepared, often in silence. The ones who feel the weight of purpose without fully seeing the shape of it yet. You have questioned yourself more than you have questioned God. You have worried not because you lack faith, but because you care deeply about not missing what you were created for. And today you need to hear this clearly. Stop worrying. God has already calibrated your path. Nothing in your life is off course. Nothing is late. Nothing is broken. Even the parts that confused you, even the delays that frustrated you, even the doors that closed without explanation. Every pause, every setback, every season that felt empty has been measured with divine precision. God has not been guessing with your life. He has not been improvising. He has been calibrating, adjusting, refining, aligning, often in ways your mind could not fully understand at the time. You may have felt restless lately, your thoughts racing your spirit, tired, your heart asking questions your mouth never says out loud. You replay conversations. You wonder if you are behind. You feel the pressure of time as if you must hurry before something passes you by. But hear this truth, your calling is not threatened by time. God is not rushed, and neither is what He has prepared for you. If something has not happened yet, it is not because you failed. It is because timing is part of the design. This message arrives now because your mind has been carrying weight it was never meant to carry alone. God sees that. He sees the nights you overthink, the silent fear of missing your moment, the tension between trusting Him and wanting reassurance. And today He wants your restless mind to finally rest. Not because everything is suddenly perfect, but because you are finally ready to understand something deeper. Alignment does not require anxiety to function. It requires trust. You have been trying to manage outcomes that belong to God. You have been carrying tomorrow with today's strength. And that is why worry crept in, not because God stepped away, but because you stepped into a role you were never assigned. You were never called to be the architect. You were called to be the vessel. Obedience is your responsibility. Outcomes are His. If you are truly chosen, this message will not pass through you casually. It will settle. It will slow your thoughts. It will remind you who is in control. You are not behind. You are not lost. You are not failing. You are becoming. And becoming often feels uncomfortable to the mind before it feels powerful to the soul. So take a breath right now, not later, not after you figure everything out. Right now. Because what you are about to understand will lift a weight you have been carrying quietly for a long time. God has already calibrated your path, and once that truth settles in, worry begins to lose its grip. Chosen one, let me speak to you plainly, the way a wise father would sit you down and look you in the eyes. You have been worrying, not because you lack faith, not because you doubt God, but because your mind carries a weight most people never have to carry. You see deeper, you sense more, you notice patterns, undercurrents, and meanings that others overlook. While many live on the surface of life, your mind dives beneath it, and depth always comes with pressure. You were never designed to live casually. Your thoughts don't skim, they explore purpose, destiny, responsibility, and consequence. While others are distracted by comfort, entertainment, and temporary satisfaction, your mind keeps returning to questions of meaning. Why am I here? What am I being prepared for? Am I using my time wisely? That kind of thinking is not a flaw. It is a mark. But when a deep mind lives in a shallow world, tension is inevitable. You worry because you feel responsible for things you have not fully seen yet. Your spirit senses that more is ahead, but your eyes cannot clearly define it. And when vision is delayed, the mind tries to fill in the gaps. That is where worry enters, not because God is absent, but because you are attempting to carry tomorrow with today's strength. You are reaching into a future that has not been revealed yet and trying to manage it in advance. That weight was never meant to rest on you. Another reason you worry is because you confuse awareness with anxiety. You are alert, not afraid. You are vigilant, not faithless. But the enemy loves to twist vigilance into worry. He whispers quietly, "If you don't think about this constantly, you'll miss it. If you relax, everything will fall apart." That voice feels logical, even responsible, but it is a lie. God does not require constant mental strain to accomplish His will. Your calling does not depend on your anxiety to stay alive. You also worry because you care deeply about doing right by God. You fear wasting time. You fear failing the assignment placed on your life. You fear misalignment more than you fear struggle. That tells me something important about you. Your heart is sincere. But hear this correction with love. God never asked you to carry the outcome. He only asked you to walk in obedience. Outcomes belong to Him. When you take responsibility for results, you take on a burden that was never yours. There is another layer to your worry that few people talk about. You have outgrown old versions of yourself, but you have not fully stepped into the new one yet. That in-between space feels unstable. You no longer fit where you came from, but you have not arrived where you are going. That tension creates restlessness. It makes you question yourself. But that space is not confusion. It is transition. And transition always feels uncertain to those who do not understand divine process. You are shedding old thinking, old limitations, old attachments, and shedding always feels like loss before it feels like freedom. So your mind keeps asking questions your spirit already knows the answers to. Add to that the fact that you often walk alone. Few people truly understand your silence, your convictions, your depth. When pressure builds, there is no one you can fully unload it onto. You carry it inward, quietly, and silence, if unmanaged, can amplify worry. But let me say this clearly and firmly. Your worry is not a sign that something is wrong with you. It is a sign that something great has been entrusted to you. Ordinary minds do not wrestle with destiny. Ordinary souls do not feel the weight of alignment. Ordinary people do not question their path this deeply. Where worry becomes dangerous is when it turns into self-doubt, when it convinces you that you must constantly manage what God has already mapped. That is when the burden becomes too heavy. You were never designed to be the architect. You are the vessel. And once you understand that, worry begins to loosen its grip because you finally remember who is truly in control. Chosen ones, slow your thoughts for a moment. Not tomorrow, not later, right now. Because if you truly grasp what this means, a large portion of your worry will begin to dissolve. God does not improvise with your life. He does not guess. He does not experiment. When Scripture speaks of God ordering steps, it is not poetic exaggeration, it is precision. When I say your path is calibrated, I mean it has been measured, adjusted, refined, and aligned with intention. Calibration is what an expert does when accuracy matters, and your life requires accuracy. You see events, God sees alignment. You see delay, God sees preparation. You see confusion, God sees sequencing. Nothing in your life has been random. Not the family you were born into, not the environment that shaped you, not the heartbreaks that marked you, and not the doors that closed without explanation. Every element was factored into who you are becoming, even the ones that hurt. This is where many chosen ones struggle. You want clarity before movement, but God often gives movement before clarity. Why? Because clarity grows as you walk. If God revealed everything at once, the weight of it would overwhelm your mind. So He releases truth in portions, strength in measures, and understanding in seasons. He knows exactly how much you can carry at each stage. What feels like withholding is often protection. Calibration also requires tension. If something is too loose, it cannot be adjusted. If something is too rigid, it breaks. God applies just enough pressure to refine you without destroying you. That is why your life has felt intense but survivable, heavy but not consuming. The delays you resented were not punishment, they were restraint. You were not ready for what you once begged for, not because you were unworthy, but because your character discernment and emotional maturity were still being strengthened. You often compare your timeline to others, but you are looking horizontally instead of vertically. Their path is not calibrated for your calling. What works for them could damage you. What comes easily to them might distract you. God slows you down because your assignment is heavier. Higher level purpose requires deeper foundations. There are blessings God withheld, not because He ignored you, but because He saw further than you did. Not yet was still love. Even your mistakes were accounted for. God knew where you would misstep, where emotion would cloud judgment, where fear would speak louder than faith. And still He adjusted the path without removing the purpose. That is grace. You did not miss your moment. God does not operate on fragile windows. He creates moments. When alignment comes, you will not have to force it. You will not have to chase or beg. Things will begin to fall into place naturally, quietly, but firmly. Calibration also means restraint. God restricts you from certain spaces, people, and opportunities because they would pull you off frequency. You call it rejection. God calls it redirection. You call it loss. God calls it pruning. And pruning always comes before growth. If your life feels slow, it is because God is being careful with you. If your progress feels quiet, it is because He is building something stable. Your life is not chaotic, it is precise. And once you understand that trust begins to replace worry, chosen one, this is the part most people misunderstand. And because they misunderstand it, they suffer unnecessarily. The silence. That season where prayers seem unanswered, signs feel distant, and progress appears invisible. You ask, why does it feel like nothing is happening? But let me tell you this with calm authority. Silence does not mean absence. Silence means focus. God often does His deepest, most precise work when He removes the noise. When He quiets the outside, He amplifies the inside. But the chosen mind struggles with silence because silence removes reassurance. And without reassurance, the mind tries to fill the gap with assumptions. That is where anxiety begins, not because something is wrong, but because trust is being exercised. Noise gives the illusion of movement. Silence demands faith, and faith is not passive. Faith is one of the strongest spiritual disciplines there is. When God goes quiet, He is not testing your patience. He is strengthening your hearing. He wants you to recognize His presence without constant confirmation. He is teaching you to trust alignment rather than depend on signs. The silent season is where God dismantles your dependence on external validation. No applause, no recognition, no visible progress, just you, your thoughts, and your faith. That is uncomfortable, but it is necessary. Anything built on constant affirmation collapses under pressure. God is building something in you that can stand when no one is clapping. Think about this pattern. Moses was hidden for years before he was called publicly. David was anointed long before he was crowned. Even Jesus lived quietly before he ministered powerfully. Silence always precedes impact. Always. You feel forgotten because God is protecting you from premature exposure. If He revealed you too early, people would see the gift before the foundation, and gifts without foundation attract attack. In silence, God removes what cannot go with you. Old mindsets, old fears, old attachments. Even shallow versions of faith that depended on comfort instead of conviction. Silence strips you down so you can be built correctly. And yes, stripping hurts because identity often gets tangled in familiarity. When God removes what feels familiar, the soul panics before it understands. You have wondered why you are not seeing results, but results come after roots. No one applauds roots. No one photographs roots. Yet without them, nothing stands. Silence is where roots grow. It is also where discernment is sharpened. When everything is loud, it is easy to confuse emotion with instruction. In silence, you learn the difference between impulse and direction. You learn restraint, and restraint is power. God is not punishing you by withholding answers. He is maturing you so you can carry answers without being overwhelmed. Some truths require strength to hold. Some blessings require discipline to maintain. Silence prepares you for both. Something is always happening even when you cannot see it. Character is being refined. Patience is being strengthened. Faith is being deepened beneath the surface. If God had truly abandoned you, you would feel empty, not restless. Restlessness means something is forming within you. Dead things do not wrestle. Growing things do. Silence exposes distractions. When noise is removed, habits surface, coping mechanisms reveal themselves, and dependencies become visible. God allows this not to shame you, but to heal you. He cannot heal what you refuse to see. And here is what will calm your spirit if you let it settle in. God does not waste silent seasons. He does not extend them unnecessarily. He ends them precisely when the work is complete, not when you demand it, not when you feel ready, but when you actually are ready. You are not stuck. You are being steadied. You are not delayed. You are being fortified. When the silence breaks, it will not break with chaos. It will break with clarity. Direction will feel simple. Movement will feel natural. Peace will accompany action. Until then, rest your spirit. Silence is not the absence of God. It is the presence of His hand, working carefully, quietly, intentionally, aligning you for what comes next. Chosen one, let me speak to something you have felt for a long time, but rarely say out loud: the loneliness. That sense of never fully belonging no matter where you go. You can be surrounded by people and still feel separate, not superior, not distant by choice, just different. That feeling is not arrogance. It is assignment. You were never designed to blend in. You were designed to stand apart so you could see clearly. When everyone moves with the crowd, vision becomes blurred. God separates the chosen so they can observe, discern, and lead without distortion. Isolation is not rejection, it is positioning. From early on, you noticed this pattern: friendships that faded, groups that drained you, environments that once felt comfortable suddenly felt restrictive. You did not become difficult, you became aware, and awareness creates distance. Many people misunderstand chosen ones because you do not move on emotional impulse alone. You think before you act, you question before you follow. You feel deeply, but you do not express everything. That confuses people who live externally. They may label you distant, cold, or unpredictable, but in truth, you are discerning, and discernment requires space. This is why certain relationships ended without explanation. Not because you were wrong, but because they could not go where you were being taken. There are seasons where God intentionally reduces your circle. He limits access to your time, energy, and emotions. That feels painful because humans crave connection. But God prioritizes alignment over comfort. The wrong connection at the wrong time can derail years of preparation. You may have noticed that superficial conversations no longer satisfy you. Small talk drains you. Performative relationships feel hollow. You crave depth, meaning, and substance. That desire is not unrealistic. It reflects your spiritual capacity. Shallow environments cannot nourish deep souls. Seeds do not sprout in crowds. They grow in darkness, silence, and solitude before anything visible emerges. Isolation also builds strength you cannot learn in company. When no one is there to affirm you, you learn to stand on conviction. When no one agrees with you, you learn to trust what God has shown you. That inner confidence cannot be taught. It can only be formed in solitude. This is why God often gives crowds to those who need validation, but solitude to those who need clarity. Let me correct a harmful thought you may carry. Isolation is not a sign that something is wrong with you. Often it is a sign that something is right. You outgrew a space, and instead of shrinking to fit it, God moved you out of it. And yes, there are moments when isolation hurts, when you want to be understood, when you want companionship, when you want someone to truly see you. God sees that desire. He is not ignoring it, but He is careful with who He allows close to you. Chosen ones are not protected because they are fragile. They are protected because they are valuable. Not everyone has the maturity, integrity, or heart to walk closely with someone carrying assignment. Isolation teaches you boundaries. It teaches you that access to you is sacred, not casual. This season will not last forever. God does bring aligned people at the right time, people who recognize your depth without trying to change it. But before that, you must learn to stand whole on your own. So stop interpreting isolation as abandonment. It is refinement. It is preparation. It is God saying, I trust you enough to walk alone for now. Chosen one, this is where many strong souls struggle the most control. Not because you are arrogant, not because you do not trust God, but because life taught you often through pain that if you were not alert, things would fall apart. So you learn to monitor everything. You analyze outcomes. You replay conversations. You plan for every possible scenario. And slowly, without realizing it, vigilance turns into control. Let me say this clearly and calmly. Control is not the same as responsibility. Responsibility is obedience. Control is fear wearing the mask of wisdom. You were never called to manage every outcome. You were called to steward your heart, your choices, and your obedience. Everything beyond that belongs to God. When you try to manage what God already governs, worry becomes inevitable because you are carrying weight you were never designed to hold. Control feels productive because it creates the illusion of safety. It makes you feel prepared. But control tightens the spirit. It keeps you mentally tense, emotionally guarded, and spiritually restless. A tense spirit cannot flow freely with God. God does not require tension to prove faithfulness. He requires surrender. Many misunderstand surrender. They think it means passivity, doing nothing, caring less, letting life happen. That is not surrender. That is resignation. Surrender is active trust. You still prepare. You still show up. You still move when God says move. But you release attachment to outcome. You stop forcing timing, reactions, and results. You stop rehearsing failure in your mind. Control often comes from a fear of disappointment. You tell yourself, if I manage expectations, I won't get hurt. But that also limits joy. You cannot protect yourself from pain without also blocking peace. God does not want you guarded. He wants you grounded. And grounded people move with clarity, not urgency. Here is a truth you may need to hear. God sees more than you. He knows more than you, and He cares more deeply about the outcome of your life than you ever could. If that is true, then constant worry is not preparation. It is distrust disguised as diligence. And I say that without judgment, only clarity. You feel mentally exhausted because you have been carrying tomorrow's problems with today's energy. God only gives grace for today. When you drag the future into the present, you exceed your grace supply. That is why your mind feels overwhelmed. Letting go of control means learning to stay present without becoming careless. It means trusting that when something unexpected happens, God will meet you there with wisdom and provision. Control also blocks discernment. Worry is loud, urgent, and repetitive. God's guidance is calm, steady, and clear. Peace is often the confirmation of alignment, not urgency, not pressure. Peace. If a decision requires you to abandon peace to pursue it, pause. God does not rush alignment. He leads you into it. Releasing control does not make you irresponsible. It makes you available to hear, to adjust, to move. Surrender is not a one-time decision. It is a posture. When control tries to return, simply return to trust. Peace is practiced, not perfected, and this is the moment worry truly begins to lose its power. Chosen one, when the calibrated path begins to activate, the first changes you notice are not external, they are internal. Before doors open, before circumstances shift, something settles inside you. The constant urgency fades. The need to explain yourself disappears. The pressure to force clarity loosens its grip. Peace becomes familiar. That is not a coincidence. That is alignment. When God activates what He has calibrated, confusion gives way to simplicity. Decisions that once felt overwhelming begin to feel obvious. You no longer need to analyze every option to exhaustion. You recognize when to move and when to wait, not because someone told you, but because your spirit senses the timing. Alignment sharpens discernment without increasing stress. Another sign is that resistance loses its power. Challenges do not disappear, but they no longer drain you the way they once did. You stop interpreting every obstacle as a threat. You understand that resistance is not rejection. It is refinement nearing completion. What once triggered fear now feels manageable. Your emotional reactions soften because your inner foundation has strengthened. You may also notice doors opening without struggle. Conversations happen naturally. Opportunities align without manipulation. You are no longer chasing what once consumed your thoughts. Instead, what is meant for you begins to recognize you. This is how divine movement works. It attracts rather than exhausts. God does not pull you into alignment through force. He draws you into it through peace. As the path activates, your confidence becomes quiet. You stop announcing your moves. You stop seeking validation. You trust the process because you can feel it working. That inner assurance becomes your anchor. You still have questions, but they no longer consume you. You still face uncertainty, but it no longer destabilizes you. Worry is no longer running the system. Trust is. Another shift happens in how you experience time. You stop feeling behind. You stop racing invisible deadlines. You realize urgency was never coming from God. Alignment slows you just enough to move accurately, and accuracy always outpaces speed in the long run. You begin to understand that what is meant for you cannot pass you by. Activation does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks calm where there used to be panic, clarity where there used to be noise, stability where there used to be chaos. These internal shifts matter more than any visible breakthrough. God often confirms alignment through repetition, gentle nudges, consistent direction, quiet assurance rather than loud signs. You also become more selective without guilt. You protect your energy. You say no without over-explaining. You disengage from what pulls you off frequency. That is not selfishness. It is stewardship. Purpose does not demand exhaustion. It strengthens you. When alignment is active, effort remains but striving disappears. You may still experience quiet seasons, but the quiet feels different now. It feels intentional, not empty. You sense movement beneath the surface, like standing on solid ground instead of shifting sand. And here is what matters most. God reveals only what you need for the next step. And because worry has loosened its grip, that becomes enough. Chosen one, if you feel steadier than before, even without all the answers, honor that. Stability is often the first evidence that alignment is real. You are closer than you think. And the path God calibrated is no longer waiting. It is unfolding. Looking back on your journey, it becomes clear that every challenge, every uncertain moment, and every difficult decision was never random. They are pieces that guide you toward a balance that can only be achieved when you walk the path God has intended for you. This path is not always easy, but it always leads to fulfillment because it is designed with a perfect purpose that you may not yet fully understand. Recognizing that this alignment is a process, not a final destination, is the first step to truly living in harmony. The alignment you experience is not just about external successes or doors opening at the right moment. It is also about an internal transformation, finding peace, cultivating inner confidence, and becoming aware of what truly matters. When you learn to listen to yourself and notice the subtle signs of divine orchestration, your direction becomes clearer. This does not mean that life suddenly becomes effortless, but it does mean you stop pursuing paths that are not meant for you. And your energy is no longer wasted on what does not fit. A crucial aspect of living in alignment is learning to let go. Letting go of unnecessary worries, impatient desires, and relationships or opportunities that do not serve you. Letting go is not failure. It is a wise choice to preserve your energy for what is truly right. By practicing release, you not only create space for better things to enter your life, but also learn to appreciate what you already have, living with a deeper sense of gratitude. Ultimately, walking the path that has been set for you is a journey of patience and trust. You learn to have faith in the process, even when the results are not immediately visible. Every step, no matter how small or slow, matters, and every challenging moment is an opportunity to grow and strengthen your faith. When you recognize that you are living in alignment, you feel harmony between your mind, emotions, and soul, and your energy begins to radiate more powerfully across all areas of life. choosing to follow the path that God has laid out, living with calm assurance and inner confidence, and trusting that everything unfolds at the right time. That is how you achieve true fulfillment without forcing or worrying. This journey is not merely a pursuit of success, but a journey toward genuine peace and growth. When you understand this, you step into a state of wholeness where all past efforts make sense and every moment, challenge, and choice contributes to the perfect unfolding of your life.